Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Reporter's Notebook. For those of you who've never watched Reporter's Notebook before, it's a fun chance where towards the end of our days, we get to sit down with some of the reporters, some of the people who work here in the newsroom, and kind of get a behind the scenes of what it's like to work at a newsroom and dig a little deeper into those stories that we cover for you guys each and every day. So today I am joined by Miss Victoria Holmes, my co-host, my friend, my digital reporter. So how are you doing today?
You know what? I could be doing better. I am not in the greatest of moods, and I think that's probably why you asked me to join me on tonight's edition of Reporter's Notebook, because of some of the events that are happening in the Capitol today. I have been watching things unfold. Right now, so today I didn't do a story. I was doing some writing day, doing some technical things. This is something that our news station does for all the reporters, is that each day they kind of retrain us on some of the aspects of journalism just so we can get a refresher, and then kind of bounce around some ideas about some of the projects that we hope to pitch in the future. Now, what happened today is something that I have kind of threw off my tech day.
Yeah.
and what that was of course the Electoral College votes being certified, and then the objections to those votes.
Yeah.
So that has kind of taken up a pretty big portion of my day, trying to see what that means, looking at the pictures from Capitol Hill at DC, just like every concerned American is right now, every American invested in our democracy. We're all eyes are on our Capitol right now.
Yeah. So if you guys have not been following this, like Victoria said, this has been going on since this morning. There's been protesters, supporters of President Donald Trump that have been, out rallying since Tuesday evening, last night, around the Capitol, around the White House, to support Donald Trump in him saying that he does not, believe in the outcome of this election. He wants to contest those results. And today, if you guys have been watching, it has clearly gotten dangerous and violent and chaotic.
Yes. I want to go back to 7th grade history lesson. Okay, let's go back to when we learned the definitions of what the Constitution is, and then what these acts do, what bills do. This is an insurrection. That's what this is. An insurrection, the definition of an insurrection is some sort of violent upheaval of government authority, some sort of organized mob kind of mentality, breaching official government authority. That's what we're seeing right now. It's if there's doubts about that, let's just lay out the facts first, okay? So you have a group of people who breached the Capitol building, who breached Capitol Senate chambers, who breached House chambers, and they are making an embarrassment of what it means to be an American right now. Sorry, I get so emotional.
That's okay.
It's just kind of it goes against what our American democracy stands for.
Yeah. So. No, it does, and it's creating violence. We already know of at least one woman. We don't know her condition. We don't know her name. Nothing.
We do know
critical condition.
Yes.
A woman who was shot in the chest in the Capitol building during all this. Police have had their guns drawn. There's been tear gas dispersed onto protesters. People have been shot at. People have tried breaking into chambers, which incited the guns being drawn. This is chaotic. And like Victoria said, she's, got emotional talking about it. Like, for us reporters, we are so invested every day in these stories. This is our life every single day. So we get really invested in this stuff. And it's hard. It really does take an emotional toll on us every single day, as I'm sure it does, the viewers, you guys watching this, I'm sure is upsetting to a lot of people, and similar situations is upsetting.
Yes.
So
I think one of the things that I think every American should be concerned right now, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to
incite. Yes.
I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm not. That's not what I am trying to do. I am trying to show everyone that this is something that has never happened in our American democracy. And I don't think that's being an alarmist. I think that's being someone who is concerned for the values that our country stands for. And I think that's someone who wants to respect what America has been for the past 200 years. The whole entire world looks at our democracy as an example. And having someone breach our Capitol buildings wearing shirtless, breaching Senate offices, that's not what our country stands for, and that's what the world is seeing right now.
Right. And I mean, we are even getting calls here to the news station from viewers asking what's going on. Can they tell us anything else? You know, we had one caller call in and say, you know, I think this is the greatest example of national terrorism. And, you know, situations like this, it's just so shocking. You don't expect them to happen, and you just hope that this situation like this can be resolved or at least calmed down by the end of the day, because this is something that needs to be figured out. This Congress session can't just end and not go back into session. It has to go back into session. This is a very important conversation and discussion these election officials and our congressmen have to have. And so the fact that this has been abruptly stopped and lawmakers have been evacuated from the building for their own safety, and, you know, that this session is no longer happening, they're in recess, like, that is detrimental to our democracy and our election process, that this is not even going forward right now.
Let's go back a little bit and take a look at where this began. So today's January 6th. Today is the day that Congress meets to certify the election results, the electoral college votes. Okay, there are a few members of Congress, both House members and Senate members.
Yes.
There were 5 North Carolina House representatives who protested against some of the electoral votes, so the certification of those electoral votes. Okay, this started after those members objected to the certification of those votes. This is one of the most secure elections in American history. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. This is 2020 elections were one of the most secure in election history in American history. That was released by a government agency. You can read that, you know, the reports. You can read the agency who I can't remember the name of the agency. The acronym of that agency is CISA, and it's like Central Infrastructure Security Agency, something like that. But that is a legit government agency who stated that these recent elections were the most secure in American history. So the fact that there was some sort of objection to the votes is something that I, as a reporter who looks at news every single day, does not understand.
Right. And I mean, that was one of the huge things that was being talked about by election officials alike. And even, you know, President Trump's former attorney general even came out and said this. I mean, there's no way, there's no grounding for it. There's no possible way that they're going to overturn the election results. There's no standing for it.
There's no way.
And, you know, as much as I understand the people, you know, going out and supporting, you know, the President Trump, if you're one of his supporters and he's contesting it, I understand that is your right to go out and have your freedom of speech and say that. However, it turning into this sort of situation is not warranted whatsoever. Yeah. Especially with the fact that before Congress has even met in session, earlier this morning and yesterday, so many officials came out and said there's literally no possible way that these results are going to get changed. It's so unlikely it's not going to happen. So the fact that this has turned into something so violent for no reason is just saddening and alarming. And I'm worried for, you know, the reporters in DC right now, because as reporters, we have to be right there when something's happening. We have to be there getting footage of it, trying to get interviews, trying to figure out what information we can get at those scenes. And it can be dangerous for reporters as well. So, you know, I'm nervous for some of those reporters that are down there, right there at the Capitol, trying to get these shots. And it's just a situation that, you know, you never want to see in news because it's very close to home. Yeah, it's been a tough day for news, I'll tell you that much. But so me and Victoria just definitely wanted to get on here and kind of talk about, you know, our feelings as reporters with a situation happening like this, especially, you know, it is a political situation. And something that's so important to every single one of our lives every day and what's going to happen in 2021. So
I do want to say before we sign off that I hope that these images kind of re-inspire some sort of participation into the American citizen. Watching these images flash across my screen definitely makes me more cognizant of the freedoms I do have and how quickly they can be threatened and how easily they can be threatened. And I think that's something that we forget as an American democracy, is that our freedoms are so vital to who we are as a country. Why every country looks towards America, but at the same time they are under threat, especially right now. So I'm hoping that out of this conversation, out of what you're seeing, the good that can come out of this is the fact that there's some sort of recognition of that American kind of like citizenship and the rights that come with being American and practicing those rights.
Definitely. Well, we will here at WNCT continue to keep you guys updated on, you know, this obviously developing situation and story that is going on, letting you guys know everything that we possibly can that's happening. We have live updates going up on our website every couple of minutes that we can update something. We're adding something in there about what's going on. So please feel free to check that out. There's videos, there's photos on there, there's, you know, tweets from leaders talking about the situation that they're experiencing firsthand. So please feel free to check those out and really, you know, understand what's going on today, because this is a very, very important day in American history, and it will be far into the future. So definitely pay attention to what's going on today, and stay tuned for 10 and 11 here at WNCT Channel 9 as well, because again, we will continue to keep you guys as updated as we possibly can. So thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Reporter's Notebook. Thank you, Victoria, for joining me for this conversation. I know it's something that we both really wanted to get on here and talk about. So thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us for this edition of Reporter's Notebook. Have a great rest of your night.